Every collector wants that definitive version of their favorite character, the figure they can point to in their collection and go, that's him. And when Amazing Yamaguchi announced they'd be making a Thor figure, I said, there it is. And now that I have him in hand, I can easily say, well... What's going on, folks? Kinda Collecting here. If this is your first video, welcome. And if you've been here before, we're pretty much family now, so welcome back. Do me a favor and do all the things that help the channel grow. Like, subscribe, and tell your imaginary friends about me. And if we really family, drop a oos in the comments. Now, let's get into the video. Just looking at the Amazing Yamaguchi Thor, there's three things that stand out. First, he is a very meaty man. Homie is very familiar with the gym. He's got arms, chest, and thighs for days. If he ever puts any of my figures in a chokehold, it's night-night for him. Second, he's more articulated than any other Thor figure we've ever gotten. Ever. The poses this dude can get into are wild. And third, he's visually challenged. We'll cover all of his faces when I go over the accessories, but Odin's son's got a face that only a mother could love. Overall though, he's a really nice figure. But aside from the face, there's one big thing that's holding him back from being the one. So let's talk about it. Now, normally I like to have a source to compare a figure to for accuracy, but the only design I could find that matches this figure is from his Marvel Now run, and I'm not that locked into the comic scene, so instead of focusing on how closely it matches that particular design, I'ma just focus on the details on them. And I'm here to tell you, the details, detail. The boots are plain, but the straps give it character. The chainmail on his thighs provide a nice contrast to break things up. His kilt, skirt thingy are sculpted so well, even down to the belt design. His upper body is ripped as he just looks like he's barely squeezing into a suit. His arms are two thick, strong, veiny slabs of meat. And his helmet, ignore the face, is the best I've seen on a 1/12 scale. And this cape is beautiful. Whether he's in a dynamic pose or just standing still, the wired cape just adds so much story to each shot. Speaking of which, it's strange because for the longest time, Revoltech figures couldn't get into vanilla poses. Like, standing straight up and down just wasn't a thing. They've definitely improved over the years, but with Thor, when he's just standing still, sometimes he looks fine, but other times he looks super uncomfortable. Like he's trying to squeeze through a doorway that's only made for one person. Like a normal sized person. It kind of forces you to put him into some sort of dynamic pose at all times, but that's alright because that's the main reason you buy a Revoltech. While we're on the topic of posing, the articulation on this dude is crazy. But it's tricky because Revoltech figures don't work like other figures. With a Marvel Legends, you can take the figure out of the packaging and start moving the joints out willy-nilly just to see what it can do, and I'm sure you can do that with Amazing Yamaguchi too, but I am not willing to do that. When I'm playing with Revoltech figures, I feel like I gotta be more conscious on how I'm rotating and swiveling each joint. Now, I normally don't do this and I'm not going to go over every bit of articulation on this guy, but I'll give you a quick rundown. They did a great job making the hair a separate piece from the rest of his head. It helps him look up and down with no problem. His ab crunch is deep, which helps with so many gestures, and his arms, which I'm always nervous about, articulate so darn good. The shoulders just always scare me on Revels because I can never remember which part is on a ball joint and which part is on a peg, but once you get the hang of it, it opens up so many options. And this isn't unique to Thor, and it doesn't affect him that much since he doesn't really need to perform any high kicks, but Revo's leg articulation is different. Now, I don't know if it's the unique thigh cut or the design, or maybe I'm just not good at posing yet, but normally kicking forward is just not as easily achievable on Revoltech. There is a way around that though, as the legs kick outward and from there you can swivel the legs forward to achieve a higher lift. And maybe that's how it's always been and I'm just tripping, but again, it's not that big of a deal for Thor. However, it does help if you want to get him into some sitting down poses. That's enough articulation talk, let's pose him up. Amazing Yamaguchi stuffed this package with accessories, and I ain't mad at it. Now, when Revoltech first released pictures of Thor, I said, those faces are god-awful. And after finally getting it in hand, I will say they're not as bad as I initially thought, but they're still not good. Now, he comes with 6 interchangeable faceplates and 7 faces all together, this sculpt being the weakest of the bunch. And I'm not sure why, but they didn't allow this face to be interchangeable with any other options. And trust me, I tried really hard. And I didn't realize this at first, but half of the faceplates share the same neutral expression, with the eyes looking in 3 different directions. One looking to the left, one looking to the right, and one looking straight ahead. Now, 2 of the other faceplates also look left or right, but they share a more yelling expression. And the last sculpt is unique to itself, and in my opinion is the best one. His eyes are widened out as if the thunder is coursing through his body and he's ready to give someone that work. I think they could have done a better job on the teeth simply by not lining each individual tooth, but overall it's still the best option on this figure. And I think my biggest complaint about the faces is that they tried to sculpt too many details, which aged the character like a lot. I think less sculpting in that sense would have went a long way. Thor also has 5 pairs of hands, 2 fists to get active, 2 big grabby grabbers, 2 little gripping hands to hold hammer, 2 reaching hands with ports in them for one specific accessory, and 2 fists that have straps sculpted into them to plug in hammer. Speaking of hammer, Thor comes with hammer. And look, for some reason I just can't pronounce Hammer's name on camera, so I'ma just stick with Hammer. I know, I'm not worthy. But every part of Hammer is detachable, including the strap, and I either lost strap or I took it off in hopes that I wouldn't lose it, and I still lost it. Ignoring that, the stone design of Hammer is super clean, and they give you 2 versions of the hammer. The second one has 2 ports in it, so you can plug in that same one lightning effect that the other hands are also supposed to use. Speaking of lightning, Thor comes with 11 lightning effects, and the figure comes with instructions on how and where each lightning effect should go, but it's mostly just a suggestion and most of them will fit wherever you place them at. I get overwhelmed easily, so all those pieces distress the hell out of me, but it's a nice option to have. So remember when I said there was one big thing holding him back from being the one? Well, now it's time to take a look at some size comparisons. First off, we have a guy who thinks he's a god with the Berserker Studio Zeus, and an actual god with the Black Hole Toys Ultra Instinct Goku. There's going to be a running theme with most of these comparisons. Ideally for me, Thor would be closer to the height of this Zeus. Goku's hair pretty much comes up to the top of Thor's head, and that figure is based off of a figure art's body, which normally runs smaller in scale, so that shouldn't be the case. Next up, we have 2 other Revoltech persons with Superman and Magneto, and at least Revoltech's consistent. All these guys are about the same height. Superman might be a little bit taller, but again, I'd still prefer Thor to be looking down on both of these guys. And I wouldn't mind if they updated their Magneto body too. This guy is on the less articulated mold, but the sculpt itself is still phenomenal. Oh wait, yeah, that's a custom cape on Magneto too. And you know how I just said Revoltech is consistent with their scales? I lied. Here's Black Panther and Iron Man is considerably taller than both Thor and T'Challa, which also shouldn't be the case. But both are really good figures, regardless. Next, we have the Marvel Legends Black Widow and the Old Man Hawkeye. And this Hawkeye character design is so dope. But again, Thor should still be much taller than these two. Ideally, these guys should be coming up to Thor's shoulders at best, in my opinion. By the way, I'm not going off of any height descriptions, I'm just going off of feel. And a character that's labeled a God of Thunder should probably tower over a dude named Clint. I'm just saying. This next size comparison works perfectly with the smaller Figure Arts Final Battle Spider-Man and the hulking Marvel Select Gladiator Hulk. Now, to be fair, if we go based on what I've been saying, Spider-Man should technically come up to about Thor's elbow, and Thor would be at Hulk's bicep, and I'd love that too, but this is what we got. And lastly, I thought I'd give these two their own special spot, so here's how Revoltech's Thor matches up with its Marvel Legends counterpart, and boy, this is crazy. Now, I'll be honest, looking at them side by side, maybe the Legends is a little too big, but he scales really well with his own line, which makes sense. But if you were to give Revo most of the Legends' height, we might be looking at a darn near perfect figure. So there you have it. As a standalone figure, Amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech Thor is great. It's got all the articulation you'd expect, and there's no part of this sculpt where the details are lacking. Now, is it the definitive Thor figure? Well, that depends on who you ask. A lot of people will be able to look past the size and fit it right into their collection. And chances are, if you're purchasing this figure, you're going to have him posed up anyway, so the scale isn't going to matter as much. But the scale and faces hold it back from being him. For me. But what do you think? Are you able to look past the minor flaws and put this Thor head and shoulders above the competition? Let me know down below. That's it for this video. Until next time, protect your peace, stay young at heart, and remember, we're all kind of collecting something. Peace.